Rusev Udria, Rusev Machka.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the newest episode of the Will You Stop podcast. I am Brandon, joined by my tag team partner, Avi. Av, what's going on, man?
Still quarantined. Now we're extended till May 15th, so I'm going to still be quarantined.
Yeah. It's been a rough 24 hours in the world of professional wrestling. Between everything going on with WWE and cuts, and, we lost one of our great legends this morning, and Howard Finkel.
Yeah, I mean, the Fink is the voice of an entire generation of wrestling fans. You know, if you go back from, I mean, you're talking mid-'70s all the way through to pretty much the mid-2000s. He was the voice of the WWE going on for, about 40 years. So you're talking about a guy that, for all intents and purposes, when you think about wrestling, you think about all those championships and everything else. He was the guy that made the call. He introduced us to so many wrestling cards, even house shows. A lot of times the National Coliseum, Madison Square Garden house shows, he was the guy that pretty much that opened up the show for everybody. So it's he hasn't been around in a while. I think the last time he was on TV was what, 2008 or 9?
Yeah, he's been sick for.
So he's been off TV for quite a while. So I mean, but anybody who grew up in that era of wrestling definitely is hurting just a little bit today.
I mean, the fact that's literally the voice and the fantasy voice that when you're wrestling with your friends in their living room and you're doing ring instructions, you're doing it in Howard Finkel's voice. It is the most recognizable voice, perhaps, of any ring announcer in history.
Well, I mean, you have to look at it, the old superstars of wrestling, when it was called Championship Wrestling, opened up with him saying, and new World Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion Hulk Hogan. I mean, he opened up the show for so many years. He was the voice of a generation. It's sad. I mean, he wasn't that old. He was only 69 years old, so it's a little bit. He was sick for a long time, so it's definitely not a happy day in wrestling with that.
Yeah, well, he was also the first WWE employee, correct?
So they say.
And Tom has joined us. What's up, Tom? How are you feeling the loss of Howard Finkel today?
I mean, I'm still reeling from the slaughter that was last night, according to you. So,
I mean, I look at the cuts from last night, and I mean, let's go through the list one by one. And honestly, so few of these guys had an impact, have an impact, or will have an impact wherever they go. Honestly, a lot of these guys, if they're not hired back, are going to fall into obscurity somewhere in the independent scene, maybe Japan, maybe MLW or Impact or AEW picks up a couple of them. But Brandon, let's go through the list and really break this down so I can calm people down.
We're going to...
Quick analogy, all right? What last night was a very, very wealthy family that hasn't been to their ranch house in Wyoming in 10 years, that hasn't been to their villa in Italy in like 5 years, and has $1 million houses, and they just said, you know what, let's just cut the houses that we haven't been in a while because we're being stupid. Okay, it's just going to be a consequence for them. Do you think they care?
Hold on. Listen, the McMahons aren't going to care. They're going to be fine regardless. But let's just break down the list and let's go one by one. Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay, we're going to start off with the, I guess, active talents. First, they let Kurt Angle go.
Yeah, he was pretty much done anyway. One
I mean, could I see him showing up as a commissioner at Impact? Maybe they bring him as a commissioner of Impact. I don't see AEW bothering with him. Maybe he shows up as a commissioner in MLW. I think he either winds up at MLW or Impact as like a commissioner type character.
I mean, I want to just also say that a lot of these guys, I wouldn't be surprised if when everything gets back to normal are actually brought back. But case in point, Drake Maverick. He was let go. He put this emotional video up, but yet he's still in this NXT Cruiserweight tournament that they're doing next week on NXT. So to me, if they're letting a guy still work, even though he's been fired, it's a temporary situation as far as like a Drake Maverick goes.
But I'm going to say it again. You and the IWC are making a big deal out of guys that know. If Drake Maverick never wrestled a match ever again, would anybody notice?
No, I'm not saying it. It would be. It's not an Impact type.
We spent a minute on a guy that if he disappeared tomorrow, nobody would notice. That's my whole point. If we go down this list, it should literally take us a minute to go through each guy. That's how little most of these guys mattered.
Okay, Kurt Hawkins. What, Tom?
It's already taken too long in my mind.
Exactly.
Oh, please.
Hold on. Kurt Hawkins. Maybe he shows up in Impact, maybe MLW. I'm going to say most of these guys maybe show up in Impact or MLW. Honestly, Kurt Hawkins, it's Kurt Hawkins. Next.
Gallows and Anderson.
They were AJ Styles buddies, had no business re-signing a contract like that. It was trying to get them away from AEW. They're going back to New Japan. That's a no-brainer.
Now they're going to AEW.
I think either they're going to go back to New Japan or go to AEW. It's one or the other. I don't think they're going to bother with MLW or Impact. I think it's either going to be AEW or back to Japan.
Heath Slater.
Again, Impact or MLW. I don't see AEW bothering with that. Unless he's friends with Cody, which is also a possibility. If he's friends with Cody, he winds up in AEW. Otherwise, he'll wind up in MLW or Impact.
Eric Young, going back to Impact.
Yeah, he didn't do enough, I think, to even bother with AEW. He'll wind up back in Impact.
Tom, you were saying something?
Yeah, I'm really, Heath Slater's the most devastating one because he's got kids.
Tom, I'm going to call Tom bullshit on something. He is upset about this, and he's deflecting the fact that he is. He is the biggest WWE guy, and he disappeared for 12 hours and fell asleep in his tears last night. And missed Wednesday. Let me finish. And finished Wednesday and missed the Wednesday night wrestling because he was crying about these losses. So I'm calling complete bullshit that you are not bothered by this. Fuck that shit.
My sleeping patterns are so fucked up over the last month. Okay, what I've been doing is I've been sleeping during the day and staying up all night, and then I was up for like a day and a half in a row, and yesterday it just caught up to me. So thankfully, I'm back on normal biological clock sleeping schedule. That's where I went yesterday. Don't flatter yourself.
I'm not flattering myself. It's just how you are. Eric Rowan.
I could see him going to AEW and joining with, what's his name, with Brody.
Lee.
Yeah.
Sarah Logan.
Impact.
See, this is the thing that Izzy had mentioned something yesterday, and this goes against what we talked. This is. He said that, and we'll get to it. Mike Rotundo, as an agent, was let go, and his argument was, I guess Vince doesn't think that Bray Wyatt is over enough. Otherwise, they would have kept his father.
I'll tell you right now, the agents are going to be back because they have to run the shows, and the agents are the ones that runs the show. So the agents are probably more suspended, quote unquote, or AKA furloughed than anything else. The agents have to get brought back. You have to run shows. So the agents right now, they'll have a job in a few months if this thing subsides. So we can actually skip the agents.
All right. Mike Chioda, which honestly, that was like a real surprise to me because he's been with the company for like 30 years.
Yeah, that was a surprise also. I have to assume he's the highest paid referee, and honestly, anybody could ref. So, I mean, I could see him going to AEW. They need another referee anyway, although Audrey is the best referee in the business.
Look, how can they take on more talent right now? How can they afford to take on more people?
Because they have an owner who's worth $7 billion. They could take on anything they want.
Vince McMahon's worth $2 billion. He could take on anyone he wants. That doesn't mean they should do it.
Tom, let me give you a little history lesson. During the Monday Night Wars in 97, 98, 99, WCW's talent roster was in the triple digits. They literally bought anybody and would pay them $250,000 a year just not to wrestle for Vince. You had guys like Marty Jannetty, okay, making over $300,000 a year to sit at home.
I believe it, and that's why they're not here right now. I beg your pardon, but Vince owns them because Vince runs everything.
Keep going, Brian. What else we got on the list?
This was a guy who should have been released a while ago. They've done nothing with him, and they blew it with him. EC3.
He sucks.
EC3 is interesting because that's the one guy that I could look at. I could say he might go back to Impact where he made his name, but that's the guy I think AEW should pick up on. The guy's good in the ring. He's got a decent character. That's something they could do. If there's one guy, if there's two guys AEW should look at, one of them is definitely EC3.
I disagree. It makes most sense to go back to Impact. Go back to where you had the most success. They'll probably give you as much as Impact will. And you know it. It's like the devil I know is better than the devil I don't. Go back to what successful.
It's a much different Impact now than when he was there, though. Impact is no.
If you look at Impact right now, they're on the same level as an MLW. They're a very small independent federation. They're basically a Canadian federation now.
Now, I could see him going. I think him and an MJF program would be really good. Aiden English, not going to go anywhere. You know, he's going to live off the fact that he's an in-law to the Guerreros.
Yeah.
He wasn't even really wrestling anymore. He was just commentating. Leo Rush.
Okay, I have strong feelings on this because I've seen him wrestle 3 times. Okay, I saw him wrestle in Maryland Championship Wrestling. Okay, he's a DMV guy, so I got to give him love. He's somebody who could have been, and you know what? If he gets his head out of his ass right now in the next couple of years, he could still be a superstar in this business. He's been an asshole. All the problems that plagued him, all the issues that were supposedly concerns and red flags when WWE signed him came up over the last couple of years. He should have been released. He's been a complete shithead over his time in WWE, and he took the opportunity and just completely pissed all over it. So I hope this is a wake-up call to him. I hope he gets his shit together and his head out of his ass. I hope he grows up and fulfills his potential because he should have been released a long time ago. This is not a shock.
I think he'll wind up in Ring of Honor. That's all.
These are 4 people who I didn't even realize were still working for the company, Primo and Epico.
Yeah, like where have they been? They'll go back to Mexico or something like that. I don't see them doing much.
Yeah, they've been working in Puerto Rico for their dad and uncle's promotion. So Mike and Maria Canellis, again, these are people who wanted out.
Actually, they'll wind up back in MLW, those two.
Or ROH.
Yeah.
Zack Ryder. And I'm going to say this right now. He's going to go to AEW because Cody wrote this whole long thing about how great Zack Ryder is. So Cody's going to sign him.
He'll have no problem finding a job.
Yep. No Way Jose. I know you're upset about that, Av. You were a big No Way Jose fan for a while.
Devastated. I love No Way Jose. That guy had a bright future.
And last, what, Tom?
That guy sucks. I hated that. I hated his character. It just drove me nuts.
And lastly, which isn't a surprise, is Rusev. And I think this was inevitable because he didn't re-sign a 5-year contract like his wife did.
I will tell you right now, he's the other guy I can see with EC3 going to AEW. That'd be a big pickup for them. The guy can work. He's got a good character. Bring him into AEW. Let him put some work in.
Okay. You're what?
I was a fan of Rusev. I think he's overrated. I'm not a fan. I don't understand how the hell Lana went for him. He way outkicked his coverage on that one.
Well, it's the same way that how Billy Kidman got Tori Wilson. I mean, come on. You work with someone.
It's called outkicking your coverage. That's what it's called.
Outkicking your coverage. Actually, no, Billy Kidman was a good-looking dude, no homo.
I'll give you someone who outkicked their coverage by about 50 fucking yards. David Flair and Stacy Keibler. All right, you were outkicking your fucking coverage. Holy shit.
All right,
and he got her 19 years old, he got her?
All right, so we're not going to, you don't want to talk about all.
Mark Miro and Sable, he outkicked his coverage there.
Hey, listen, DDP and Kimberly.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, my God. One thing about wrestlers, man, they got to have a good rap because that's just part of being a wrestler. Some of them got a better rap than others because if you look at it, you got some guys that outkick their coverage by a lot.
I got an old...
Deborah?
Yeah, Deborah. Mongo McMichael. It's another good one.
I got an old school one. Kevin Sullivan and Woman.
Yeah. So about outkicking your coverage on that one.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to skip over all the coaches that were and producers that were released.
Yeah, they have to bring them back.
And they released 7 NXT people who you've never heard of, except for Deonna Purrazzo. It's funny. They released a lot of people who were on TV this past Monday.
They released a lot of people that honestly are so inconsequential. It just, listen, if Randy Orton got released, that'd be a big fucking deal. I'd be like, holy shit, where's this guy going to go? Because that's actually, even though we don't like him, it's still a big enough name. But, I mean, none of these guys are going to make any kind of... The only guys that would make an impact, I think, where they go, I could see EC3 making some waves. I could see Rusev making a name for himself, but I don't see him making waves, so to speak. It's just, to me, these releases were just, they weren't huge releases.
That's all they were.
And
Yeah, it was a money thing. That's all it really was.
Yep. And the rumor is there's 12 more names to be announced today that are going to be released. So, I don't see them going any major name, any top guy being let go.
I hope he sucks.
Who sucks?
Apollo Crews.
You're excited for what? Timeout. No, I'm calling Tom out on this. You boasted how Monday Night MVP, who was an underrated talent, and Apollo Crews are going to tear the house down.
I didn't say they were going to tear the house down. I said it was a good idea because it improves the diversity of the product. I didn't say anything about...
What diversity exactly?
Well, that two African-American wrestlers can main event Monday Night Raw. It's opening, opening doors.
They're not main event. Again, you're getting confused with what a main event, what a mid-card act is. They're not main eventing. But then last night we had our NXT and Dynamite shows. Did you happen to see the main event or Dynamite?
I did not watch any wrestling last night whatsoever.
I'm going to say this. Empty arenas are not working. They're really not, especially when you want to try to push a 30-minute match.
It's funny you say that because a lot of athletes have been saying they have no problem playing in front of empty crowds because the truth of the matter is, remember, they play at practice. So at practice, you're not going to get a crowd there. So they're used to really performing in front of no crowds. When baseball players, hockey players, basketball players say they're used to playing in front of no crowds, people think they're kidding. They're not kidding. At practice, anybody who's ever played the sport in high school or college level knows you're going to have scrimmages at practice. There's no crowd there. So I think sports might work. Wrestling feeds off the crowd's energy. Right? You're a heel. What are you listening for? Is the crowd giving me shit right now? That means what I'm doing is working. When the crowd backs off, that's when the face has to get his run. Without a crowd to gauge it, it's just not going to work. AEW really couldn't do what WWE was capable of doing, which they didn't do. AEW can't have a best of AEW, obviously. They just don't have enough footage. They've only been around for less than a year. But WWE should have been having a best of every single week. It's just wrestling without a crowd. It doesn't work at all. They've done empty arena matches, but that was one match, and that was basically a reason behind the empty arena. Too many guys were interfering, yada yada yada. You do one every 20 years, okay, it's a big deal. Every week, oh, that's not good. And it's at the point now where it's just it doesn't feel right, it doesn't look right, it sounds awful. Honestly, a lot of times it sounds like you're listening to a bad porno.
I mean, Tom, you've been supporting this WWE doing these empty arena stuff. So why don't you give me your opinion on why you think it's a good idea and try to avoid the whole, they're making lemonade out of lemons. Give me like a real reason.
Because they're the only sports entertainment industry that's able to do it. All other live sports are on hold right now. So they have the ability to provide entertainment. They should do it. And a little thing called a TV contract. If they don't provide live stuff, they could be violating their TV contract, which would also cost a lot of money. So
that's the only reason. What's the only reason they're doing it is to stay in contract and not be in breach of contract. We all know that. That being said, they have no choice but to put these shows on. But that being said, yes, I get what you're saying. It doesn't mean it's good, though. That's the whole point. It's not fun to watch.
WrestleMania was awesome.
Okay, let's touch on it because we didn't talk about it since he brought it up. WrestleMania was shit. Okay, first off, let's get something. You had two world title matches, the Universal and WWE title, that were laid out the exact same way. One guy, let me finish. One guy does 4 finishers. The other guy does 4 finishers and wins. They were literally laid out the same exact way. There was no difference between them. Your main event of WrestleMania, the very last match, lasted 5 minutes. How can you condone that?
You know what? Here's my issue with a lot of what's going on now, especially with these world title matches, universe, whatever. It just seems like It's literally two guys exchanging finishers until one guy gets pinned. That's unacceptable for a wrestling match on anything. I don't care if it's Raw. I don't care if it's SmackDown. I don't care if it's NXT. A match has to have a certain level of a match to it. You can't just exchange finishers and say, okay, here's our match. That was one issue I had. I think we have to look at WrestleMania in this context. Is that, to a degree, I think things will change in wrestling. A lot of what you saw with the Boneyard match and with the Cena Wyatt match, they've been doing that in Lucha Underground for a while. I don't know if you guys ever watched it or not, but that's a lot of the stuff they were doing in Lucha Underground. I was listening to Eric Bischoff, and I kind of agree with what he was saying. You can't do a Boneyard match or a Cena versus Wyatt match like that, a Funhouse match. You can't do it all the time. It's just too much money, too expensive, too time consuming. That Boneyard match probably took between 10 and 12 hours to film. The Cena Wyatt match, that Funhouse match, probably between 10 and 12 hours also. There's a lot of cutting, a lot of editing, it takes hours to do that. You're basically filming a movie scene if you think about it. And if you look at both matches ran roughly, 20 or 30 minutes, give or take?
Something like that.
So you basically made a 20 or 30-minute movie. You can't do it all the time. But I think the light bulb has gone off that you can do stuff like that every so often. I think the Funhouse stuff was a little too childish for my taste. I get what they were trying to do. You have to ask yourself, if Bray Wyatt and John Cena had a regular match, would we be okay with it? When was the last time John Cena wrestled?
9 months ago, something like that.
Right. So you're talking a guy who's going to be probably having a nice amount of ring rust, getting into the ring. Cena's lost a lot of weight, you can tell. With Bray Wyatt, their matches were never great to begin with. So you're taking a guy who has ring rust now and putting him against Bray. Was it worth the risk? I'd have to say no. I think what they did with that match was the best they could do. I get what they were trying to do. I just think it's not something we're going to be able to get used to, but I think it's opening doors for things like that. The Boneyard match, upon further review, listen, I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. To me, it wasn't a match. It was a movie scene. Again, it opens the door for other things they can do. Would AJ Styles and Undertaker have had an actual good match? I don't think so. Taker could barely walk these days. So I think under the circumstances, it wasn't bad what they did. My biggest issue at WrestleMania was allowing Edge and Randy Orton to have the second longest match in WrestleMania history, and in my estimation, the probably most boring match. Nah, I can't say the most boring. We've had Giant Gonzalez and Undertaker in WrestleMania. We've had some really horrible matches. It was a very boring match. I mean, the fact those two guys were allowed to go almost 40 minutes is mind-boggling to me. But that was the WrestleMania we were given this year. But back to the Firefly Funhouse. I mean, the Funhouse match, I get where they were going with it. Under the circumstances, I'm okay with it. The Boneyard match, again, under the circumstances, I'm okay with it. I don't want to see a lot more of this. But they've done pre-taped matches before. The Boiler Room match with Mankind and Undertaker was pre-taped. Goldust and Piper was pre-taped. So WWE has done stuff like this before. This was a little more movie-esque, a little more entertainment-esque. So I think it threw a lot of people off. But under the circumstance, I mean, what else could you honestly have done with those four guys?
Do you think, and I've heard people talking about it the last couple of weeks, do you think them doing these cinematic matches, and I'm not even talking about the Firefly Funhouse, that was more, that was supposed to be more ha-ha funny, while the AJ Boneyard thing was supposed to be a little more serious. Do you think it opens up an opportunity for like older guys to, get one more shine in the spotlight? I mean, I know we've talked about this ad nauseum and people have talked about it for years, but could it lead to finally getting that Undertaker-Sting confrontation, doing it this way, as opposed to, Sting taking bumps in the ring, Taker taking bumps in the ring type of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, and I kind of agree with that. I think wrestling is ever evolving. And if you look at the business, nothing has really, truly changed since the end of the Monday Night Wars. I mean, what's really changed in wrestling in the last 20 years, if you think about it? I mean, Monday Night Wars ended on March 26, 2001. And since then, what's really changed in the last in the last 19 years? Not much. So I think wrestling was due a change. Like I said, I don't think it'll be the norm for a few reasons. I don't think it'll be the norm because A, it's hard to put something like that together. That's hours and hours of work. You just don't have time for that. I mean, the Boneyard match, just looking at the cutting and editing and everything else and just putting the set together, I'm thinking that must have taken at least 10 to 12 hours. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I know they were showing behind the scenes stuff, and they said it took the filming itself took about 8 hours, but to put that thing together and set everything up with the trap doors and stuff, that had to take days.
Right. I mean, just putting the set together probably took days. And if you look at the cost of that, that could not have been cheap to put together.
No.
Just the filming, the cost, the effects, and everything else. I mean, that's a lot of money that I think you can do that once a year, maybe twice a year. Let's say you have something like that at WrestleMania, and then maybe do something like that again at SummerSlam or Royal Rumble. I could see that. I think it changes things wrestling-wise. You know, it puts wrestling in a place where, okay, we have two guys who really can't work anymore, but they're still over with the fans. Maybe we put something like this together with them. And that works. Like I said, from a cost standpoint, from people getting used to it standpoint, I don't think it works. I think for Taker and Styles, it worked. I think it was like, what the hell did I just watch? But I think when you watch it again, you kind of realize where they're going with it. The Firefly Funhouse thing, that didn't sit well with me. That was just, I like the whole using the Saturday Night's Main Event type deal. I like the Vince McMahon character saying, this is good shit. Stuff like that. I got where they were going with it. The NWO stuff, I got it. I don't think John Cena fits in with this environment anymore.
No, he almost feels like a dad joke, or that awkward uncle who tries to make a joke and it just doesn't go over.
Yeah, I don't think he fits in with today's audience. I think the shtick has definitely run dry. Listen, he'll still go down as one of the greatest of all time. Now, I don't know if in 20 years from now I'm going to be saying the same thing. Who knows? I mean, 20 years from now, we may look at him as this generation's Bob Backlund.
Right.
Where he was the main guy of a very weak era. We don't know. You know, but for what it's worth, you know, I think people are always going to wonder what if Cena would have turned heel in 2011 or 12. You know, I think that's going to be the one what if in wrestling history. There's a lot of what ifs, but I think one of the biggest what ifs, what if Cena shows up on an episode of Raw with Nikki Bella staying next to him in a gown and just starts going off on the fans, and she turns to a true valet, and, you know, they go back old school on that one. How much does that affect his career and affect the company, really? Would a heel Cena have been the new Hollywood Hogan? I don't know about that level, but think about how many stars that may have created on the face side of things.
Right. Yep.
You know, maybe him and Vince didn't think it through correctly. Maybe he was one that kept pushing against it and was selfish about it. Who knows? Maybe he thought if he went heel, that would hurt his movie career. You know, there's so many what ifs that could have happened there. So I think looking back at John Cena, you may look back at him and say, well, the selfish fuck should have gone heel. Is it too late at this point? I think so. I mean, if he comes back and turns heel, well, I mean, Hogan turns heel in what, 97? At that point, he was, 44, 45 years old?
Yep.
You know, Cena takes a hiatus, comes back in a year from now, and pulls a Hollywood Hogan stunt. You don't know until you try.
But do you think he's going to give, I mean, he would have to basically give up his movie career to come back full time, because it wouldn't work for him to just show up, turn heel, and then disappear for 3 months.
Right. He'd have to stick around like Hogan did at least.
Right.
And pop up, you know, at least once every other month or whatnot. You know, it's listen, everything in wrestling has been rehashed. Does John Cena come back and start his own version of the NWO where it's like him, Randy Orton, and some of the older vets? Who knows? But, you know, I think going back to WrestleMania, I think the Boneyard match, looking back at it, I'm okay with it right now. I'm not going to say I liked it. I'm not going to say I disliked it. I'm going to say that I'm okay with it, and I got it. How does that sound? I got it.
All right, so if you're looking at it in a bubble of what it is by itself, you're good with it. But in the grand scheme of WrestleMania, it was shit.
The whole WrestleMania show is shit. We knew it was going to be shit. Never should have happened. Here's what I'm saying. I'm not good with it. I'm not bad with it. I'm okay with it. I can digest it. right? It's like, I'm not going to sit here and say it was like a Peter Luger steak, but by the same token, I'm not going to say it was a really bad meatloaf. You know, it was something edible. Like I said, I'm okay with it. I got it. That's the best way of putting it. I'm not going to say it was good. I'm not going to say it was bad. I'm going to say I got it. I'm going to say under the circumstances, I understood it. I got it. You weren't going to get a good match of AJ Styles Undertaker. Let's be honest. Undertaker can barely walk. Okay. Right. AJ Styles have to slow down his game so much for that to work, and he probably could, but I don't think it could work. I think under the circumstances, that worked. And I think under the circumstances, it's going to open doors for different situations where we can say, okay, these two guys can barely move, but we can do this.
I would have ended it one last way. And if they were going to go with a Sting situation, as Taker was pulling out, he put the hand up, the Undertaker sign lit up, and I would have had Sting on that, right by that sign, just walk out, standing behind Taker, just standing there looking at him to kind of tease it.
Unnecessary. We can build it up for a year.
Just a little tease for it would have been something to get the fans talking. It's not like WrestleMania had anything else talking. And I want to just touch, I want to touch on the Firefly Funhouse thing. One thing gave me a chuckle, and that was when Bray danced, "You can look but you can't touch."
I like that. Yeah, that was funny. The Firefly Funhouse, I wasn't okay with. It just, I don't think, like I said, the Boneyard match, I got it. I get it. I'm okay with it. Firefly Funhouse match, I didn't see it as being necessary, to be quite honest with you.
The Boneyard match was at least a fight. It was an outside wrestling match. It was a wrestling fight. The Firefly Funhouse was just basically a 15-minute promo. There was no match. I don't even call it a match because there was no match. There was no wrestling involved. It was all just trying to do these cute little things. And basically, it was a tribute in a way to Cena.
Yeah, I can agree with that one. It was... The Boneyard match was a match/fight. That's... I agree with that one. This wasn't a fight. It was like a glorified promo. It just didn't belong there is the best way of looking at it.
So,
just it was one of those things where, you know what? I would have been okay with it if they opened up the show with it. How does that sound? Because you could have used that as a promo of sorts. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the show would be like, what the hell just happened? That I wouldn't have had an issue with. I'm not going to say I would have been okay with it, but I probably would have had less of an issue if they opened the show with it. I think when you put a prominent role with a match like that, it didn't sit right. Both title matches were garbage. It was an exchange of finishing moves till somebody finally got pinned. The Edge Orton match, I mean, I have no words. That was just long and boring as can be. If I had to tell you, I mean, the best match of the night was your triple threat match for the tag titles. That was a triple threat singles match.
Yep.
So that was pretty much your best match of the night, I think. The women's tag title match was pretty good. Baszler and Becky was not a good match at all. Neither one of them looked like they wanted anything to do with that match. Charlotte and what's her name? Rhea, that made no sense booking-wise. Like, you just took a young talent and destroyed her for no reason. I didn't understand the booking sense on that one.
Well, there's actually a background to the reason for that. Apparently, her visa had to get renewed, and she had to go back to Australia, and she's not going to be back for a while, and that's why they did the switch.
But now I'm hearing that's not even the case, so who the hell knows?
Yeah.
It made no sense to me to do that. But, either way, listen, they did the best they could under the circumstances. I'm not going to say it was a good WrestleMania. I'm not going to, definitely not going to say that. But I'm not going to say it was a horrible WrestleMania. I just think it was one of those situations where it's crappy all around. They put on a show that shouldn't have been put on. Under the circumstances, it is what it is. It's just one of those things. I look at it like this. The Boneyard match, I think, opens up the doors creatively for WWE in the future, where maybe you have two guys a little banged up and it's a big show and they can't go and they do something like that. And honestly, that wouldn't be bad. I just think the Funhouse was just some shtick that should never have happened.
Yeah, that was horrible. Would you say it was the worst WrestleMania in history? If you're looking at it just from a match standard point.
Historically, your worst WrestleManias that come to mind have always been WrestleMania 9, WrestleMania 11.
13.
13's pretty bad. I think, was it 31, I think, was also a really bad one also. But historically, those are always your worst ones. If they were in front of a crowd, would some of the matches have been different? I have to believe that. I think in front of a crowd, your triple threat ladder match, the tag titles probably might have stolen the show, especially with the participants involved. I'm sure Kofi would have done something insane during that match. I think Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins put on the best match they could under those circumstances. They gave us we've seen the spot like that 1,000 times. So I don't think it was that big of a deal, but it was a good spot to end the match on, or at least come to the end to it. I don't know. I think it'd be unfair to rank it as a bad WrestleMania. You can't say it's a good WrestleMania, but somebody could argue it'd be unfair to make it a bad WrestleMania. The country's in quarantine. You can't have a crowd. They did the best they could. A lot of the wrestlers probably didn't want to be there. Like, who the hell wants to get corona? You know what I'm saying? Who wants to rest out? Especially when you have wife and kids at home. So I think it's a WrestleMania that needs an asterisk next to it. I think it'd be unfair to judge it. I think if you judge it based on the situation, it's not a bad WrestleMania. You can't make it a good WrestleMania either. I can't be fair and call it a bad one. You look at WrestleMania 9, atrocious. 11, atrocious. But if you look at 9 had no good matches. 11 really had no good matches. You can make the case for Shawn Michaels, but he always has a good match. 13, you had Hart and Austin, which were one of the greatest matches ever. Was there any match in this thing that sticks out? I think the Boneyard match is going to stick out for projects in the future. I really do. It could be, I don't know if it's a game changer altogether, but it could be a game changer for future situations where two guys like a Sting and Undertaker are banged up, can't give us a match, but they can give us something like that.
So I'm reading yesterday that there's a possibility that next WrestleMania, which was scheduled for Los Angeles, might be in jeopardy already because Los Angeles is talking about not having public events until the summer of 2021. If you're Vince and you can't put WrestleMania on there, do you give Tampa back WrestleMania this coming year? Or you try doing this again?
I mean, you may not have a choice in the matter. You're at a point now where they're talking about beaches and pools may not open this summer. I mean, the country could legitimately be locked down, period, until September. And I mean, let's be honest. Let's just say they reopen sporting events. You going to a sporting event as soon as this thing unfolds?
No.
Exactly. That's a big part people have to understand also. You may say, okay, we're good, go back to regular life. No one's going back that quickly. It's going to be a long time before I feel comfortable shaking someone's hand again.
Right.
It's going to be a long time before I get tickets to a Ranger and Nick game again. You're going to tell me when this thing ends in September and you tell me, let's go to a Giant Philly game where there's 80,000 people in the seats, we're going to feel comfortable seeing about 80,000 people? I don't think so.
I mean, they made a good point. Life isn't going to get back to normal till there's a vaccine for this.
Yeah, because you got to look at it like this. Okay, even if you open everything up, no one's taking a chance going to a sporting event. I'm not going to a concert or sporting event. If you open this country back up in June, I can guarantee no one's going to be at sporting events come June 2nd.
So you think baseball, if they are able to get going, is just going to do it empty arenas too?
Yeah, I think baseball, basketball, and hockey will reopen, I think, by June or July, and I think they're going to go empty arenas. But if you think about it, go watch your typical spring training game. There's like 300 people in the stands. There's nobody there. So they're used to it for that. Go watch a typical exhibition game for the hockey or basketball. There's nobody in the stands for those things. It's not that big of a deal.
But for sports, it's different. You're able to do it like
Exactly.
You're not doing it to perform for the fans as like, I mean, wrestling is a performance art. Let's put it that way. You're performing to get a reaction out of the crowd. When you're doing basketball, baseball, you're playing against a team and you're trying to win. It's really not so much what the fans are doing as is it in wrestling, you have to react to how the fans are reacting. They're the measuring stick. They're the gauge. It's why it goes back to the whole thing with Brody Lee. Our buddies are going on how it's a failure. You can't tell if something's a failure when there's no one to react to it and gauge it. So, I mean, saying regular sports getting back to it, much easier than I think pro wrestling is.
I mean, listen, apparently WWE is essential, so we'll see what happens.
It's good to have someone in, to have someone in the right pockets, I guess, right?
Hey, God bless America. God bless America.
Now, let me ask you this. Here's a good question. They deemed WWE as essential in Florida. So shouldn't AEW be able to do the same thing in Florida? Because if one wrestling company is essential, any wrestling would be essential, correct?
Well, it depends. Vince McMahon's got a bestie named Donald, so we'll see if Tony Khan's got a bestie named Donald also.
He's also in the Hall of Fame, so,
So we'll see. It all depends who your besties in life are.
Here's a good question, and I wish Tom was still here for this. Is everything going on going to kill AEW?
No.
Because Izzy and I wish they were here. Izzy and Tom are convinced that this is the end. AEW is done. This is the end. And I'm like, you're ridiculous. First off, Tony Khan has more money than Vince McMahon does. Two, they're not spending the same amount that WWE is, or losing the same amount that WWE is.
I'm not even worried about AEW. AEW is perfectly fine.
I mean, their shows haven't been as good, but what can you expect under this situation?
Nothing has been as good.
Well, I mean, WWE's been as bad can get, and I feel it wouldn't be much different if there was a crowd there, to be honest with you. I think creative is just what creative is for them.
Yeah, creative is just not good these days. It's just, I can't remember the last time there was actually a match I said, holy shit, I can't wait to watch this match.
I mean, and I don't know why they're adamant on having such long matches. We talked about the Edge and Orton thing. They had a long match on NXT last week with Ciampa and Gargano. And it's like these matches don't need to be this long. There's no reason for it. Last night on AEW, they went over 30 minutes in an empty arena between Moxley and Hager. And
that's the issue I have. If you're gonna have matches in front of empty arenas, make it a quick 5-10 minute match. First of all, a 30-minute match with a crowd needs the crowd.
Yeah.
I mean, no way. No, that's one thing. Yeah, the matches are definitely too long. If you're going to have matches like this, keep between 5 and 15 minutes. Even 15 minutes, I'd be pushing it. Honestly, I would keep between 5 and 10 minutes. I mean, to have a 30-minute match in front of an empty arena, having a 30-minute match in front of a full arena when it isn't that really great of a match, that's hard to do.
But yeah, when you get to watch Dynamite, that match really, I try, I have an open mind. I don't try to AEW is new and stuff, but to me, they just booked that completely wrong to have it that long.
But that's the issue. And I think both companies are so hell-bent on giving us, quality programming. They don't understand. There's a lot going on. There's a lot that's not going on that needs to be going on during the match, like the crowd involvement. Look at some of your greatest moments in wrestling history. Let's just go back. Hogan slamming Andre. The crowd made that as big as it was. Now, I know you didn't watch this live, but I did. Luger beating Hogan in Detroit. The crowd made that insane. Goldberg beating Hogan. The crowd made that huge. Austin, when his pops, that's what made Austin so special, is those pops coming to the ring. The Rock, all that stuff. Without the crowd, you're not getting the same zest, so to speak. And the moment isn't there without the crowd.
The emotional response. I mean, if you go back even to the 80s, anytime the Rock and Roll Express came out, the place was nuts. Imagine no one was there. It just,
without the crowd, it's just, no good. No bueno.
So,
both companies have to resolve the situation by just, me personally, if I was booking 5-10 minute matches tops. Honestly, I think in a situation like this, the one thing that WWE is doing right that AEW needs to do more of, more promos. Honestly, get more promos, build up the feuds more. You're going to have to do quick matches. These long, prolonged matches are not going to help anyone. You can't have first of all, having a 30-minute match with the way wrestling fans are now with a crowd is difficult. Without a crowd, it's almost impossible.
Now, what do you think AEW is going to do about Double or Nothing? I mean, they're scheduled to end of next month in Vegas. I don't see Vegas opening by next month. So you think it's just...
They're going to try to cut a deal, I think, getting up the arena somewhere.
Yep. Same thing they've been doing now with that little studio in Georgia.
I mean, this is just one of those really fucked up, interesting times in the history of this country.
Yeah.
Look at it.
History of the world, not even the country.
We're basically a history class discussion 30 years from now. We're living in history right now.
I mean, I'm just going to close it up with some tidbits. They have, I guess, what Tom would consider a dream match. You got Velveteen Dream against Finn Balor next week on an NXT.
God.
Killer Cross debuted last night at the end of NXT. He's now going to be known as Karrion Kross.
Oh, my God.
Because obviously, PGWB ain't going to use the word killer.
Right.
What I want, I'm surprised that they let Sarah Logan go, but they're keeping the Vikings, seeing that they're married. Usually they like keeping the married people together, so that kind of threw me off. And notice she was the only female released.
Yeah, I thought it was weird also. None of the females got released.
I mean, again, they did. I know Izzy's upset. One of his Rod's girls got released from NXT, but she wasn't even on TV. I mean, that's the funny thing. They didn't even release any NXT talents that basically had a presence on TV. Everyone was just the ones doing the loops in Florida. Like a Dan Matha. Half these guys that were going to release I never even heard of. But yeah, and I don't. And the thing that's fucked up is I don't think these guys are going to get signed anywhere anytime soon. I don't see AEW signing a Zack Ryder or an EC3 anytime soon during this climate.
No, but I think once it's over, I can see those guys getting signed.
Do you think that with these releases they're under those 90-day no compete clauses and get paid for the 90 days, or you think these are straight up just releases?
I think it's just straight up releases right now. I remember they're doing it to save money, so I think it's just straight up releases. Plus, honestly, what are they going to do for those 90 days?
Yeah, it's true. So to close, R.I.P. Howard Finkel.
Mm.
We will never get and new World Wrestling Federation champion.
The man is the voice of a generation.
I mean, would you say that he is the voice of the 80s as far as ring announcers go?
People forget the trailer, the lead-in to wrestling was what? The WWF insignia saying the World Wrestling Federation, the recognized symbol of excellence in sports, and that was his voice.
Yep. I mean, when you look back at the big ring announcers from the 80s, you got him, you got Gary Michael Capetta. I know I'm not versed in really the older territories, but who else would you have that you might put on that kind of level?
You got him, you got Gary Michael Capetta, you got Dave Penzer, I think was a big one. The old ring announcer from the WWF in the 70s, I forget his name, but he was a mainstay for, 100 years. I'm going to get his name right now if I can bring it up. Let me see. He always did championship wrestling. His name is not coming up. But, he's one of those guys that'll be around forever. Mike Miller, rather, from the NWA is another one. Hey, Tony Kimmel. Or Tony Chimmel.
Chimmel.
That's another one that he was around forever.
I'm actually looking up on Wikipedia Howard Finkel's history, and I'm trying to see if I can pull that name up for you.
Yeah, Mean Gene Okerlund.
Hey, he was the actual ring announcer for AWA, right?
At times, yeah. But yeah, this guy whose name I cannot remember for the life of me, he was the announcer forever for Championship Wrestling for he was the guy right before Gary Michael Capetta took over the ring announcing duties. And I forget his name. He was around forever.
Oh, Joe McHugh?
That's it.
Yeah, there it is. Finkel became WWE's lead ring announcer for TV tapings in '84, replacing the retired Joe McHugh.
Yep, Joe McHugh was around forever.
Did First off, do you know where Finkel is born in Newark, New Jersey?
I did not know that.
On top of it, do you know he was Jewish?
I did know that.
And divorced with no kids.
God bless America. The Fink.
Okay, real quick. What were your favorite Finkel moments in storylines? I mean, there were a couple of times he was part of storylines. What was your favorite? I think my favorite might have been SummerSlam night.
When he was the Warrior running around saying, I'm the Warrior, I'm the Warrior.
I mean, it was him at SummerSlam 99 helping shave Jeff Jarrett's head with
That was a good-
X-Pac.
yeah.
And then they were trying to use him as the new Ralphus when Jericho came in. Remember that?
Yes.
Man, R.I.P. Howard.
You'll be
I will,
missed.
I will still use your voice. Do you know what his last official appearance on WWE TV was? During Raw 25, they had him record at The Undertaker's entrance at the Manhattan Center because he wasn't healthy enough to go out there to do it. But
Well, he will be missed.
that's going to wrap us up. WillYouStopPodcast.com. I know we're in trying times, guys, but hit us up. What do you want to hear about? What do you want us to talk about? You want us to deep dive? We'll do that. I'll do my research. I'll put the legwork in, and, we'll get stuff done for you. I mean, wrestling's at a very weird, the world's at a very weird time, but, in the bubble of pro wrestling, which is what we talk about, it's just a very, very weird time.
Yep. So until next time, guys, hit us up.
Have a good one, guys, and stay healthy, stay safe.